Hi everyone, my name is Vanessa Valiuco and welcome to Personal Pans, conversations about belief, transformation, and all the weird and wonderful things we experience. Today's episode is with one of my favorite people on the planet, Chelle. She has a podcast called The Eternal Void, but with jazz. She is one of my best paranormal friends. We met on Twitter and we've just been close friends for a couple of years now. And she was kind enough to come on the podcast. We talked about everything because we usually do. And, but notable points, she mentions doing an interview with Alan Greenfield. We talked about how everything is a lesson. And we also talked about how the universe can poke you periodically when it wants you to pay attention. It was an absolute delight to chat with her for an hour, and I hope you enjoyed this conversation as well.
I don't know. You got to like advocate for your own health sometimes, right?
That's
Like,
exactly it. You have
yeah.
to advocate for yourself most of the time, unfortunately, which is like a constant struggle in late stage capitalism. But
Oh
yeah,
my God. Holy shit, right? Like, yeah, y'all have seen like, ugh, I don't even like want to get into like the fight with like the late stage capitalism, but advocating for myself is how I got into that mess, right?
yeah, totally. You
Yeah,
know, but like you have to, because you have to like, I don't know. It's one of those hard things where it's like you have to learn how to pick your battles, right? Because we only
right.
have so much energy. And especially now when everything is so goddamn stressful, right? It's you have limited. So you find the things that are really relevant, really matter, and then you just hit those as hard as possible. So you
Yeah,
save your energy, right? Like I took a self-defense class, God, 13 years ago, something like that. And the teacher was saying, like, the again, when you're under attack, the impulse is to fight back right away, right? That's fight or flight. But you have to calm that lizard brain and you have to coil your energy like a snake. And when you see an opportunity, that's when you strike, right? Like that
mm,
is how you can protect if you're under attack, the best way to protect yourself is to hold, coil your energy, wait for the moment, attack. Like, yeah, I think about that all the time.
oh hell yeah. No, I didn't even like, wow. Okay. Yeah. So that is, I love the coiled snake. Um, the coiled snake analogy there. Yeah, funnily enough, I mean, we can roll that into, the personal pans high strangeness, but
Yeah.
I got a random email about like the late stage capitalism fight that I'm kind of involved in trying to like fight for disability and medical benefits, right?
Yes.
Random email show of support from our buddy Joshua Cutchin, who I hadn't talked to in
Nice.
a while.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and like that made me like that triggered like a whole synchronous like chain of events in my brain going back almost like 4 years where I was like, holy shit, I am expending way too much energy on this and need to be like take a break.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, be more focused, not just like lashing out at every little thing. So that totally like it has that conserve your energy vibe to it for me.
Yeah, definitely. Because it can be really hard. And especially too, if you haven't advocated for yourself, like again, we've talked about trauma backgrounds. And I feel like part of living in with trauma and childhood trauma specifically is hiding, is not showing your real self, is not advocating for yourself because you don't want to get attacked again. Right.
Right.
Like it was
Yeah.
such when I was growing up, it was such a constant struggle to set boundaries constantly, like constantly. And I was an exhausted child. I'm still exhausted by it. Like I'll rally and I'll fight because I just have that engine in me, but it's exhausting. So if you and it's hard because you when you grow up feeling like you're constantly under attack because you are constantly under attack, it's very easy to carry that forward into your adult life and assume that things are attacks even when they aren't necessarily. So it's learning how to listen and pay attention and also do some healing so you can sense when, okay, is this just triggering me because of old stuff, or is this person doing something now new right here? And the new stuff, the now stuff, that's the stuff that you have to push back on, right? Like the
Oh
old
my
stuff just
God.
requires sitting and healing. So
Oh yeah, like holy shit. Yeah, that's a damn theme for me. Like,
yeah.
yeah. and like things that I'm like realizing more and more like every day, but definitely like the theme of the year, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and like I don't know, that kind of like goes into like something I was reading last night or yesterday, that our friend Stephanie Quick wrote. Let me see
Mm,
if I can find it in
sure.
yeah, it's so funny. I was just talking about this with Alan and AP, but
Mhm.
I picked up Alan's The Grail Within, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I read the first paragraph of the introduction. I was like, "Oh my God, I'm getting like Stephanie Quick vibes on this." So I skipped forward like 2 pages and it was like introduction by Stephanie Quick.
Ah! Oh my God, amazing. I have to get it now.
Yeah, no, you totally do. Yeah, so like just paraphrasing here, but like, or yeah, so like the last sentence of her intro paragraph is like, our task as sex magicians is to cultivate our conscious awareness of that gnosis and to become more adept at expressing it compassionately in our shared material reality.
Mm, yeah.
And like, I don't know much about sex magic or magic in general, but
Yeah.
my forays into magic definitely have included forays into, like understanding the role of compassion in like every little moment, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And all the
Yeah.
trauma work that comes with it.
That's it. Life is hard. And especially during a pandemic and especially with trauma. Like life is just hard materially, right? And then you
Right.
have all this other kind of shit layered on top and it just gets even more difficult. So having compassion, I think, is very useful and is very it's like it's an important skill, it's an important muscle to build and develop and cultivate. On the
Yeah.
other hand, you have to make sure it's finding that balance of compassion but also self-protection, like again, Kali is my she's my goddess, right? And like grace and mercy in her wild hair, she loves you but she'll fuck you up, right? Like that. there's a there's a magic in that, there's an alchemy in that I
Yeah.
really like. Compassion doesn't mean letting people just walk all over you. It's like understanding where they come from, having some grace, but also if somebody pushes too far, you gotta start swinging.
Right. Yeah. No, for sure. Like, and it's so much for me learning the line and the difference there. And more often than not, it involves like not swinging, right?
Right, right.
Like,
Like hold your just wait, like especially too with the like trauma slash ADHD impulsivity, right?
yeah.
It's okay, I'm getting real mad about this in the moment. Does this warrant this much energy, and does this situation warrant a reaction?
Right.
And usually if I like it's not, if I get really mad, I need time because I need to not spew that on a person, because I mean even my mother is just like, man, when you're mad you come down like a sharp sword. So I think that's like the metaphor for me.
Oh, like holy shit. Like after we got done recording with Alan last night, yeah, like somehow it came around and I was like, yeah, fun fact, like one of my first attempts at like solo ritual involved me stabbing myself with my sword. And that is fucking like just mood for the entire year, right?
Yeah, I mean that's the funny thing, like in the tarot the swords are incredibly powerful, right? You can cut through bullshit with them, you can also accidentally nick yourself from time to time. Gotta find that balance.
More often than not, I'm realizing I've been nicking myself. Yeah.
Yeah.
Luckily, I've got some good friends and good teachers, and at that point in time, a very dull sword.
Yes,
But
okay, good. That helps too, right? It's like you
yeah,
got to set things up to protect yourself when like, uh-oh, I could do some damage to myself with this. So let me rein it in a little bit.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's like, like, oh my God, like so when I first like started doing the Eternal Void, right? Like I called
Yeah.
up like an old childhood friend, Mary Colazzo, who like got into like the like shamanistic stuff down in South Carolina.
Cool.
And she was like, yeah, everything's a lesson. And I'm like, yeah, I can dig on that. I get it,
Yeah.
And that was like more than a year ago we had that conversation, and I'm
Mhm.
just like, holy shit, everything is a lesson.
Yes. Yes.
Like, oh my God. Yeah, but there's like artistry to it, right? Like there are like layers to the metaphors and analogies, and I think like those same spaces in between like the literal words is like the same place we can draw art from.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. Yeah.
So I don't know if I was going anywhere with that, but yeah.
That's fine. Again, this can be ADHD, occult chat. I'm into it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't know. Like, let me pull up something on Amazon. There was something else I wanted to tell you about. Like, if we're
Yeah.
just telling like weird stories,
Hmm.
let me find it. I'm trying to remember the person's name.
Mm.
They've got a book coming out soon,
Oh, cool.
and I'm really interested in it. Yeah, so Jack Chanik.
Oh,
We're
okay.
mutuals on Twitter,
Cool.
and we have like one of the same cups on our altar, which is really cool because I thought I had like the only one, right?
Yeah, neat.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll show it to you here in a second. But
Please.
he's writing Kabbalah for Wiccans, right?
Oh, cool. Yes.
Yeah, yeah, and like this isn't a paid endorsement or anything, but I'll send you the link because I'm really excited about it.
Perfect. Yeah.
That goes back to like meditating on compassion, right? Like
Hmm.
in my very limited experience and understanding of like the Sephiroth and the Tree of Life.
Hmm.
My understanding is that like the node right above the material plane, that like loosely translates to compassion and a few other things,
Mm.
is like the first stop
Mm.
going up the tree of life, right?
Hmm.
So one day, like 2018, 2017, I'm laying there meditating
Hmm.
on compassion,
Mm.
and I just like drop out of my body.
Wild. Yes.
Yeah, next thing I know, I'm in my living room, and there is like my dog at the time had like this big cage, right? It was like his
Mm.
home.
Yes.
Like, he would go in there like anytime he was bad, or like, if
Yeah.
we were leaving the house or something, like he had plenty of room to move in, but it was his kennel.
Yeah.
So like in this like meditation experience, I'm like in my living room, and there is something in that cage,
Okay.
right? Like
Yeah. Oh
totally
boy.
neutral,
Yeah.
probably even beneficial, but something. And I'm
Yes.
like, but I like wasn't expecting that, and I did not have like the benefits of like knowing who to read or like having any good
Mhm.
teachers or like all of these amazing like friends that I have now.
Yes, right.
So what do? But I grab the sword, right? And like totally wrong direction.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
like yeah, and like I'll just put it this way. I would not do the same thing today, but
Yes.
then there's also like how many other like situations will present themselves in the future that where the same choice can be made, both like in the imagination space or in the material space. But, it's
Hmm.
just a matter of like, I don't know, making sure like that lesson sticks, I guess, putting it into practice.
Yes, exactly. And I will make one comment on that too, that it's important, I think, also to have self-compassion, because those reactions in the moment were trained into us, our neural pathways, because of childhood trauma, right?
Yeah.
So of course, fight or flight kicks up, and you're going to go to those default neural pathways, even at, because again, neuroplasticity is a thing. You can build new neural pathways and have new reactions, but be aware that sometimes you will go back from wise mind to reactive mind, and in the moment it's just like, oh no, there's a threat to my existence, get it out, where's the sword, that kind of thing.
Right.
So yeah, so it's not just compassion towards others. I think the self-compassion is even more important, so that you, again, forgive yourself for your reactions, for what you were trained to behave in order to survive the childhood that you survived, period.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, absolutely right. And I can tell you like some some more weirdness around that if you want.
Always.
All right. All right. Cool. I don't think I've really told anybody except maybe Marco Visconti this story.
Okay.
So, like self-compassion, like silencing like negative self-talk has
Mhm.
been like a constant struggle this year, right?
Yes, of course.
Like, but like it's just something that like I don't know, I don't want to say everybody should work on, but it's something that I chose that I need to work on, right?
Yeah, right.
So, in one of those little amazing dips we had during the pandemic, where
Yes.
like you can actually like go into like, a Starbucks, as long as you've got
Mhm.
your N95 or KN95 and everybody else
Right.
is masked up.
Yes.
Like, so I'm driving back from Baltimore where I had to go to like a special optometrist.
Mm.
And on my way back, your brain's wondering as it does.
Mhm.
I'm like, fuck, I'm hungry. There's a Starbucks. Let me pull over there and I'm just going to grab like a sandwich and a cup of coffee and get back on the road. It didn't have a drive through, so I had to go in.
Yes.
So at the time, I'm rocking like that no goblin shirt in total like stealth mode.
Yeah.
Yeah, like nothing on me that would like indicate any affiliation towards like any particular line of thinking.
Yes.
Um, and I catch myself like saying something nasty about myself, like in my head
Mhm.
as I'm opening the door.
Mhm.
Catch it, shut it down, remind myself like what we're working on, and
Yes.
then go, and all of this happens in like the split second that I'm opening the door, right?
Yes. Right.
Okay, so here's where it gets like super, super like, holy shit, what is reality?
Yes.
So I get up to the counter
Mhm.
and I'm like, oh my gosh, yes. So can I just get like a lemonade and like, an impossible sandwich or something?
Mhm.
And the girl at the counter just looks at me and is like, no goblins. What is that? And I'm like, I think I literally said, like, I tried to play it as mundane as possible, right? And I'm like, oh yeah, so there's like this show on Hellier where like these people go to investigate claims about like goblins. Somebody's claiming that like goblins are on their property and they're like, hey, this sounds weird, let's go check it out. And then it gets like all crazy and they don't actually find any goblins and somebody left an angry review about it and they decided to make it a t-shirt.
Yeah.
And I shit you not, she comes towards me and she's like, are you a ceremonial magician? And I'm just like,
Yes.
I'm familiar with the concept, but you should really check out this show. I think you'd like season 2. And then she starts showing me all of her thelemic tattoos and her Cali medallion.
Oh my. Yes. Oh my God. Yes.
So yeah, my
Yeah.
takeaway there is like compassion for others and the self, and
Yeah.
the universe will definitely fucking let you know that they get that you're kind of dense sometimes.
That I 100% believe that if we were to give the universe a personality, the universe is a trickster. 100%. It likes to play, right?
Yeah.
And it also likes to poke at you if maybe you're being a little dense, right? Just,
Yeah.
okay, here's something. Like again, with the tarot, I love it when the tarot is just like slapping me upside the head with an answer. And it's like, okay, I get it, fine. Like
I was just talking to SJ and Mortellus about that in Twitter DMs. Oh, by the way, yeah, that's like Starbucks situation.
yes.
Like all of that happens. Like, and as I'm waiting for my food, like this person, like a mask walks by with just a baseball cap on, with just 93 on the side as they walk past me. Right. And like it turned out it was like a local like venue that was like something 93. But anyway,
Yeah.
so I get all that done and I'm like, all right, message heard, whatever. I get back in my car and pull out my phone on Twitter because social media is addictive.
Of course.
And like a minute before, like Mortellus had retweeted Greg Newkirk. And I'm like, I can't even like tell anybody about this because it's just, I get it. It's too fucking weird and it's not really like, yeah, I'm telling it now, but
of course. But it's
just trying to make the case for compassion and hopefully not self-aggrandizement or whatever.
no, I think it's one of those things too where again I think the like the paranormal and the universe operates in more subtle ways than we like to think. Like it's those little moments where it's just like several things line up and connect. And okay, sure. I'm always willing to accept maybe I'm hallucinating this, maybe I'm making this up, maybe I'm prone to magical thinking. sure, that's fine. But I think this is how the universe will, it will poke these little things into your path, right? And then
Mm-hmm.
it's the emotional response that you have that indicates that you are being communicated with, right? Because it's
Right.
not about these little, I think we get bogged down in like these little details. It's like the little details are all working together to get you to an emotional state that is more connected with what is out there potentially, right? Because I think
Right.
emotions are more important in terms of like the human condition and the human condition operating with ultra terrestrials or whatever you want to call it, like getting into that state of receptiveness, of play, of compassion, of self-love, however you want to put it, that gets you into that receptive kind of vibe where you are playing, literally playing with the universe. That is the
Yeah.
best place to be in, where you realize like, oh, we're playing a game, this is great, awesome, cool, let's play tag, great.
Yeah. Oh my God. And like it will, like I've found that like if you show it like a willingness to try and like compassion and a willingness to be better, like yeah, like the game can get kind of weird and strangely like friendly, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And then like on the flip side of that though, like the other thing I worry about is like and we don't have to like get too much into this, but like the
Mhm.
anti-vaxxers, anti-maskers, and like QAnon, like occultism and stuff. Like I've read so many interviews of like, you know, anti-vaxxers who died and like were begging for like the vaccine on their deathbed and stuff. And like
Yes.
one particular interview struck me really hard because like they focused on like the person's spouse and all of like these signs from the universe that they had thought they were reading that their loved one was going to get better and they didn't. So like
Yeah.
just like on the flip side, like anybody listening to this, like don't ignore the material reality
Right.
because it'll get you.
That's exactly it. Right.
Yeah.
Where these, again, I do believe in a spiritual or cosmic experience outside of three-dimensional reality, but we are also three-dimensional meat sacks walking around in linear time. There are certain things, like I was just talking about this with a friend of mine. I always think about the Hierophant, right? Because to me, the Hierophant and the tarot is the things that are unmovable, right? And it's not
Okay.
that it's impossible to deal with, but there are things that can't be moved. You got to be a little more clever when you're working with them, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
again, we were talking about, this is the friend who just got diagnosed with ADHD, right? Very close friend
Yeah.
of mine, one of my best friends, got the diagnosis yesterday, and talking about like understanding, okay, my brain operates a certain way.
Right.
It's hard coded. There, I can't do anything about that. But if I know it's hard coded in a certain way, I can train myself to do certain things, to work with it. So, and I can have compassion about how my brain operates, so I can work with it and not be ashamed of who I am and how I operate in the world. So the, ADHD, the diagnosis, that's the Hierophant, but all the other things you can do around it is your free will about it, right?
Right.
There's power in that, knowing the hard-coded limits, and also like, all right, but again, I'm like one of those like sneaky Polish witches who's just like, okay, you say so, but I bet there's a way around this. Like,
Oh my God. And that's like another thing, right? Like is constantly being shown that like, no, there's no cheat code on this game.
yeah, right.
Yeah. Yeah, you're gonna have to pick up the phone and make that phone call you don't want to if you want,
Yes, yes,
the results of that phone call.
that right. And again, sometimes you can work your way around it, sometimes you can put it off as much as you want to, sometimes you just got to pick up that goddamn phone and make the call. That's
Yeah.
the
Or
reality. Yeah.
yeah, or in my recent case, pay the traffic ticket, right? But yeah.
Yeah, right, brutal.
Oh my God. Like, yeah, so like, yeah, I left the house like, oh, these tarot cards are warning me about something.
Man.
Yeah, and then like 30 minutes later, I've got like, like the nicest state trooper I've ever met who like totally could like play like a fae in any movie.
Yeah,
Like
so
just
good.
like
Yes.
letting me choose like between the lesser of two violations, but I've got to pay one.
Oh my gosh. I love that.
Oh yeah, but I mean, like, given the circumstances, it could have been a lot worse, right?
That's exactly it. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sadly, there's no someone will probably correct me if I say this, but there's no card that's directly correlated with traffic violations. So the
Yeah.
cards tell you some things, but other things they're just like, you figure
Yeah,
it
like
out.
yeah, like the vibe of like slow down and pay attention to details doesn't translate one to one to did you renew your registration?
Oh
But
my
it
God.
could.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. But that's another thing too, like living in this capitalist world, it's just there's so much data thrown at us all the time. Like, how do you manage? How do you keep track of every little thing? Especially when you have
Yeah.
big things that you're dealing with and trying to overcome and address. So
Yeah, and like, that goes to just like back to like how important, and I've got to keep reminding myself of this too, is just like how important breath work is.
mm-hmm.
And it should be done, at least like in my case, before it gets to the panic stage.
Totally. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I don't know. Like, that was something that like hit me hard, pretty hard this year was like, it's a, slowing down breath work, like
Mm-hmm.
meditation is a prophylactic, not an emergency treatment.
Yes, exactly. Yes, right. It's cultivating better habits, better practices so that you can engage the world in a better way. So it doesn't get to that point of, oh no, it's tipping over into panic attack land. Like, how do I save this? Right? Like, how do I get out of
Yeah.
this? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and like I don't know, just like a general disclaimer to like, the hundreds of people that might see this because this show's awesome is like I have no qualifications and no expertise and always trust your medical doctor over anything you hear some strange girl say on a podcast, right?
Or on Facebook. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, it's so I struggle with this because I have a certain amount of skepticism towards doctors in general, just because I've dealt with so many bad ones. I have an exceptional doctor right now, and it's great, but it took me
Same.
years to find her, and had a doctor for a while, and he was great, but then he went into more academic practice, and it was like,
Right.
fuck, who do I find, Um, so it's that kind of thing. Like, talk to your doctor, obviously, but if you think something is going on, like, try to either find another doctor or really push your doctor to see like what is the actual issue here. Because again, I'm on Lexapro. I love Lexapro. I think I've talked almost every single fucking episode about being on anti-anxiety meds. It's great. And also, when I got on it, I realized that there was some other component that was not being addressed. And the more I read about ADHD, the more I'm like, oh, I also have
Yeah.
this, and the Lexapro helps with like the mood variability from ADHD, but also there's other things that need to be addressed. And I probably will need to go into my doctor at some point. I don't know if it's severe enough to require any kind of medication, but it's there. Like, I know my brain is wired a certain way. So yes, do real research, I guess, not Facebook research, not Twitter
Yeah.
research, do real research, and also talk to your doctors. Anyway, I'm
Yeah.
putting that out there because I have a lot of friends with chronic health conditions and autoimmune disorders, and so many doctors are just like, no, it's in your head. It's like, no, there's actually something going on with my body. It's not just stress.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and like, there's like the mind body link. Like stress can cause all kinds of bullshit.
Yeah,
Like
absolutely.
holy shit. Like,
Yes. Yeah.
oh
My
my God.
God.
I really miss aerial yoga. Like holy shit, I was
Oh,
getting into that so hard.
really?
And
Oh.
then it was like all these like little like whisperings about a new virus and like
Mm,
but anyway, great
yeah.
like yeah, like where I was going with that is like I found exercise can be a great stress relief, or literally just hanging upside down like a bat, if that's what you want to do.
Yeah, totally. Those inversion tables, I've been meaning to get one for a while, just for my
Oh,
scoliosis to like alleviate the pressure on my back. Like, yeah,
oh my God, I've got one on my back porch. Come over and take
amazing.
it.
Okay.
In fact, yeah, I'm staring at. I pulled the hangman earlier, and I'm just staring at that here.
Oh, Taro's talking to you.
Oh my gosh, yeah, like before I jumped in here, and like I don't know if you want to get like real personal, I was
Sure.
staring at like sometimes your tarot deck gets stuck on like repeat, right? Like you've got like what
Mhm.
78 cards, and some weeks you only see like the same four.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, so like
Yes.
Two of Wands, Strength reversed, and let me see what the other one was. I took a
Mm,
picture. Bum, 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 bum. Oh yeah, Judgment reversed. Yeah,
oof.
those have been coming up a lot lately.
Okay.
Yeah. So somebody listening out there now is like screaming the answer at me. I'll get it eventually. I'll
Of
get it
course.
eventually.
That's the problem. Sometimes it takes a while to get those messages. Like you see it over and over again. You're like, well, okay, no, but what about this other thing? And the tarot's like, no, no, it's this. We'll wait.
Yeah, no, it really do be like that though. Like, and that goes back to like the helpful tricksterish nature of the universe
Mhm,
sometimes. Like, like I've definitely been in situations where like the same exact problem presented itself in like the AM, and I walked away from it regretting like my choice of inaction.
mhm,
And then
mhm,
like in the PM, like in the evening,
mhm.
the same fucking thing happens again synchronously,
Yep.
and I take the other action that seems a little bit scary, but ends up
Yeah.
like being the right thing, right?
Yes. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's so weird. I don't
Y-
get it,
Yeah.
but I encourage a healthy exploration of it. Is that where I'm going? Yeah.
Yes, yes. I'm 100% with you there because I feel like, again, I'm always changing how I feel about the universe and what may or may not be out there. And like, I don't think everything is a lesson, but I think if you can make anything a lesson, again, you're just going to be better off, right? Like if you can
Right.
learn something from a situation. So you have a situation that comes up, you're not happy about your reaction, you're upset about it, then what the universe is like, hang on, we've got some redundancies built in, and it just sweeps another thing
Yeah.
right into your path. And you could say, like, oh, yeah, cool, I'm doing the other thing now. And then you get to resolve that issue within yourself and then move on to the next thing.
Yeah, yeah. It's almost like, yeah, the universe is like, oh, that was quick. She figured out that she made a boo-boo. Let's see if she can put
Exactly.
that into practice.
Yeah, exactly. She wants to learn the lesson. So here we go.
Ah, I've got friends in low. Wait, what? Oh my God. Yeah, talking to Alan Greenfield yesterday was amazing, but the
Of
random
course.
song breaks, I don't need to incorporate that into my own habits, as wonderful as they are. Ah,
You know, incorporate some things, right? Right. Just
yeah, like
some.
holy shit. Like, yeah, so oh my God. So like I had a weird situation like in October where I was getting my oil changed, and I was wearing like a hoodie from Roswell that like somebody gave me.
Yeah.
Chris,
Yeah.
like Fat Ginger 77 on Twitter.
Hmm.
Like, but yeah, so like I could not leave that oil change place until like I had listened to like or watched 5 minutes of UFO TikTok from the guy behind the counter. And prior to all that, I'm like watching Green Acres because they've got like Hulu's like Nick at Night channel or whatever,
Oh
right?
my God. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. And then like, like 2.5, 3 months later, I'm talking to Alan fucking Greenfield, and
Yeah.
Green Acres is just like boom, boom. I'm like, okay, yeah, I like the penthouse view.
Of course. Exactly. Exactly. I think again, there are all these little clues, these little pokes, these little messages, right? Like
Yeah.
I just kind of I've been thinking about this for the last couple of weeks. I haven't told anybody about this, but when my grandmother died at the beginning of 2017, that was like kind of the beginning of grief and then this transformation in my life. She was 93 when she died. She just turned 93, right? And I'm like,
oh my gosh.
oh, interesting. Interesting.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. And like, oh yeah. And like, I don't know as much as I'd like to about like Thelema, just
Mhm.
like, from like that academic esoteric standpoint
Yes.
that,
Right.
we were talking about. Like, and that's
Yeah.
one of the things I've really been enjoying from like Alan's book is like
Hmm.
all of these historical names and groups and how they interacted, right?
Hmm.
Like yeah, so just like from the academic esoteric standpoint, I think is like really, really fascinating.
Hmm.
But where was I going? Oh yeah, like the 93 is what, like the number of the law, and the law
Hmm.
is love, love under will. Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
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 Yeah. Where was I gonna go with that? Not that it matters. There was something. Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. This isn't about me, but I can tell
This
you
is
a
about
really
you. You're my guest.
I can tell you another fun little synchronicity story.
Please, always.
All right, so like right after like Hellier season 2 came out, right?
Hmm.
Like before I met any of you, and I'm just like, oh well, that's interesting, right?
Hmm.
Like this was a cool show. Huh,
Yeah.
synchronicity sure is said a lot.
Hmm.
Um, I had to make a road trip
Mm.
and to like visit my mom who was sick. And in
Mm.
that road trip, like just like I was kind of like listening for like things that might pop out,
Hmm.
right?
Yes.
So I think in that month of like January is like 2019 maybe. I
Mm-hmm.
ended up putting like 1,500 miles on my car, making like 2 giant triangles around like the southeast.
Oh
And
my
like,
God. Yeah.
yeah, and one of those like had the opportunity to drive through Ashland, Kentucky.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, like, one
Yeah,
time home of like Indrid Cold and all of that good stuff.
exactly.
So I'm driving into Ashland and like, like biases are a thing,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm like, woo, that's a cool vibe here. This is kind of, it's like palpable, like you could
Mm-hmm.
touch it. It did not feel like necessarily oppressive,
Mm-hmm.
but there was a vibe.
Yeah.
It was also cold as fuck.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So like we're coming in on the main road and we're just literally like we're not going to be like annoying like paranormal tourists, but you
Sure.
know, there's like a donut shop in town that
Mm.
like, my significant other wants to stop at. And I think it's called like Devil Donuts or something, right?
All right, cool.
But yeah, so and it's on the way in and out of town. So we pull up to
Mm-hmm.
like this T where like you come off like the main road off the interstate and you can make like a right or left downtown by a Burger King.
Mm.
And it's cold as fuck that day, right? So as we come up to that T to make the right onto like the main road by the river, there's just like, a guy standing on the corner with like a like work for food or need a ride sign and like a little tiny shivering dog. And I'm just
Oh,
like, no,
yeah.
not today, motherfucker. So I make a right and we pull into or I pull into like this parking lot, like kind of past this like downtown like old timey theater that's like still in use.
Mm-hmm.
And like, you know, because of like who I am and like, the history of our people, I've got like 15 fucking hoodies in my car, right?
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I grab a few bucks in cash in a hoodie and I just walk down, book it down to the guy,
Yeah.
and like hand it to him. And I'm like, hey, good luck, whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm walking back and I'm looking under the theater sign. And it's like, tonight, Aaron Lewis of Stained. And I just like kind of shudder, like, ooh, new metal, right? And then, and the entire time I'm like, this town is kind of strange. There's a vibe here,
Yes.
but I don't want that dog to be cold and I've got to get some donuts and keep going. Holy shit, donuts.
Yeah, of course.
I just realized what that became.
Yeah,
Anyway,
right? I was wondering
so
if you
yeah, check out Two Witches Pod, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, all praise the holy donut. Fuck. So yeah, we get the donuts and we keep going and blah blah blah. So then like all of this is on my mind when the pandemic hits, and I'm like,
Yeah.
huh, I guess I'll hang out on weird Twitter till this shit dies down. and here we are.
Yeah,
But
right.
like a year and a half later, like I think it was maybe Chad who came up with the NAEQ query based on Alan Greenfield's cipher.
Yes, yeah.
I told him that story, like, via DMs, and he pops Aaron Lewis into the cipher and it comes out as 93.
I love it. Amazing.
Yeah, but I mean, I think Joys of Goblin Sex also come out to like the same thing as Terry Wrist, maybe. So,
Oh,
take it with a
fantastic.
grain of salt.
Yeah, right. Or not, again, I think it's like I said, I think there's like an emotional, like all these things are intended to evoke emotional states, right? And so
Right.
if the Joys of Goblin Sex are a trickster energy, right? And Terry Wrist is a trickster energy, maybe different kind of aspects of it, but it's like getting us to a heightened or a different state, or a removal from the mundane, I guess, right? Like
Yeah.
I think a lot in terms of how do we liberate ourselves from an oppressive system and an oppressive environment? How do we find authentic moments of joy? How do we pull that out from this toxic environment that we're living in, right? Psychically, like physically toxic. And again, any of these little things that can kind of like, again, elbow us out of the mundane space, I think those are important. So yeah, to me, sure, it's related. Like both of those things are like initiatory almost, like terms, right?
Yeah, no. And yeah, I would definitely say so. And there's like so much that can be said on like initiation as like a psychological function. And I can't speak on it, but the book was mentioned in Hellier. Robert L. Moore's The Archetype of Initiation, I find is a good book to go back to every couple years. I also recently got his Facing the Dragon, Confronting Personal and Spiritual Grandiosity.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting.
And I haven't read that yet, and I'm kind of iffy on how to approach it because I found out like it's really sad and I don't know the details, but apparently like Robert Moore was like a Jungian lecturer. Uh-oh. Are you still fuck.
I am.
You there?
I am. Yeah, I
I
can
hit
hear
the
you.
button on oh shit, what the hell? Oh my god. So I accidentally hit the play button on my AirPods. They fell out. And the song and the music that just started playing was by Gogol Bordello, When the Trickster Starts a Poking.
Right.
Fuck.
That's going to be the title of the episode, just so you know.
Yeah, we'll use that. It's a great tune. Like, yeah, no, like you got a movie recommendation from Mortellus, right? I got one as well. Wrist Cutters, A Love Story.
Oh,
and yeah, totally check that out. Like I'm gonna rewatch it tonight. That good. But Gogol Bordello is featured heavily in the soundtrack and as a story item. And it's when the trickster starts a poking, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. Oh fuck. Anyway, so where were we? Yeah, Robert L. Moore.
Yes.
Yeah, apparently like he didn't do so great against the dragon and the psychology. I think he ended in like a murder-suicide thing.
God.
Yeah, so like mental health is a thing, and like
That's real. Yeah.
the material world and the brain chemicals, are also a factor.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think it goes back to what you're saying, that it can be really intoxicating to interact with real or perceived experiences of the divine, right? The divine, the other, the ultra terrestrials. And also, again, whenever I interact with anything or feel like I'm connecting with something, there's always a part of me that thinks, could I be hallucinating? Could I be making this up? trying to stay a little grounded in reality, even though reality I think is permeable. But in any case, there I have seen this, and I feel like this is not common, but I guess not uncommon, where people get a little too off the deep end and start thinking that they are really having these experiences and that there are no other explanations for it, and this is the real thing, and I am the only avatar of whatever force I think I'm channeling. And that can get into really dangerous territory, because again, you're
Oh
still a
yeah.
meat sack, right? And there's incredible power in that, but there's also limitations of that.
Yeah.
Having both of those ideas, I think, is important.
No, 120%. And I haven't figured out any answers, but I definitely see like the undercurrent of that, right? Like both in like the Grail Within, talking to Alan last night, and even like one of my first interactions on Twitter with
Mm.
Matt Arn,
Hmm.
where, you know, he said something, and like my naive loud ass was like, it sounds kind of like Jungian psychology. And like Matt responded, well, you know, like to me, there's very little difference between good psychology and good magic.
Yeah.
And then, you know, shortly after that, like you and I spend like an entire year like dissecting trauma at the root of everything.
Yeah. Exactly. I will always talk about trauma. Always, always, always.
I'm so glad we're friends. Like, oh my
Me
God.
too.
Like, I didn't know like trauma work was like such a big part of like the wonderful world that is everything that, like, you know, when the trickster starts a poking, right?
That's it.
And like
Yes.
I would even say that like at least in like my last year, like it's been the most important thing that I've realized. And I kind of thought I was going a little bit crazy
Hmm.
because I'm like, why do like these archetypes of like the same situations that I've been running from and triggering me since I was a little child keep resurfacing?
Yeah.
And then like the more I read, I was like, oh, okay, this is just a thing that happens and I've got to work with it and work through it.
That's exactly it. Yes.
Yeah.
Right. 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 It's, again, having a trauma mindset, I think, is incredibly powerful and incredibly liberating and also empowering, right?
Hmm.
Where, because for a long time I thought, oh, I just attract crazy people, both friends and in relationships, toxic people, whatever. And I think it was something I even read on Instagram. It's not that I attract crazy people, it's that I respond to them and they respond to me because of the trauma that I experienced when I was younger. I have sane, that's a relative term, but I have grounded friends, right?
Yeah.
Good, weird friends, a lot of them. So it's not, oh, I'm only this signal flare for the weirdest, most toxic people out there. No, that's not a thing. If I respond to them, it's because I was trained to respond to that positively, right?
Right.
So okay, I know that now. So I'm not going to be ashamed of myself for how I was programmed, but I can take other steps so that I don't keep repeating these processes that are ultimately destructive to me. Have good people in my
Right.
life. Yeah.
Yeah. No, like exactly. And like, I don't know if like it's like, I don't know enough about like the weird and the magic and
Mm.
like, you know, the occult, but I started like noticing like the same patterns of like shit that I never worked through. Like the more I also started like looking into the weird and the magical.
Hmm. Hmm.
And you know, and then there's like a whole like acceptance process of like,
Yeah.
you know, like what the fuck's going on? This seems to be accelerating at the same time that I'm doing X, Y, and Z. And then like I don't know how to talk about it or ask if like this is a common thing that you know.
Of course. Yes.
Yeah, because like the whole like language of it like isn't really in like our vernacular in this late stage capitalistic world, right?
Hmm. Right. Right. We are so alienated from who we really are. We are trained to be alienated from who we are and what we want and what we think in order to be good workers who can shut our brains off and shut our minds off and shut our souls off. This is not how any of us are meant to live. period.
Right.
But we're all trained to believe that, okay, and again, I will always rant about this too. I went on a little Twitter rant about this the other day, this idea of human nature as nasty, brutish, and short, right? And it's
Yeah.
not just a Christian belief in original sin. This permeates different belief systems, different political philosophies. The idea that human nature is inherently bad, it's inherently errant, it is inherently selfish and evil and seeks destruction, right? This is Freudian
Right.
psychology as well, right? The idea of the idea of eros and thanatos, right? The death instinct. And again, one of my favorite political philosophers is Herbert Marcuse, and he deconstructs all of that in Eros and Civilization and says there is no such thing as a death instinct. There is eros. Thanatos isn't to end life, it's to end pain. So when we see people who are acting destructive towards themselves or to others, you have to look at it as this of eros being thwarted, and then the life instinct kind of kicking into, like, we have to destroy this because this is all we have, right? We're so alienated from that generative, kind, warm, like, again, if you look at, I'm going all over the place, but if you look at like how long it takes for children to become independent, we are evolutionarily adapted to take care of each other, period. We have to.
Right. Yeah.
You have to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Baby doesn't come out of the womb and start walking like a giraffe, right? Like it needs tending. It needs tending. But we're alienated from that tending. Tending gets very gendered. It gets very bound up in only certain specific aspects. There is such kindness and such warmth and such potentiality for that in the human experience, and all of that gets alienated. So of course you see destruction, of course you see cruelty, of course you see all of this. Don't assume that that is human nature. This is a rant, clearly I will go on at the drop of a hat, but
no, like, yeah, so like yesterday I'm watching like the Time Ghost History channel, right? They do like this World War II week by week thing, and like, you know, whenever I'm doing dishes, I love nothing more than to see Nazis get their asses kicked.
Yes.
But in this case, I'm watching their series on like the Black Plague, and as you're telling me about that, I'm thinking of like the self-flagellates, right, who would like beat themselves bloody while not bathing and going from town to town calling on people to repent to end the plague. And that just seems like, maybe I'm wrong, but it seems like that is like a pretty good example of what you're saying, of that energy getting twisted up
100%,
and confused.
100%, because again, that sense of powerlessness, right? Eros is being thwarted. You can't live, right? You're living in constant fear. Everybody around you is dying. You nothing makes sense anymore. Social cohesion is coming apart. So you seek out things that you can control. That's a trauma response, right? Here's a thing that I control, and I have convinced myself that this is a thing that can control my surroundings around me, right? One of the things that is so striking to me doing trauma work is that people want to feel a sense of control so badly that they will even take blame for something that isn't theirs and isn't their responsibility, just to feel like they have some sort of power over the situation and over themselves, right?
Oh, holy fuck. Write that down and email it to me.
Okay,
Jesus.
I will.
I'm making a note right now. Oh my God. Oh my God.
Yeah. And that was just realizing personal experience with my mother, who had to make the call whether or not to pull life support from my aunt, and kept saying, I killed my sister, I killed my sister, I killed my sister. It's like, no, she had health issues that you were not in control of. And you had to make a very difficult decision at the end of that you didn't kill her, but she wanted control.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah.
I fucking love you. Like, oh my God. Like, that
I
just
love you
feels
too.
like, you know, like, I don't know, like weeks worth of like circuitous like meditations that like never got to the fucking point. And there's the point.
I mean, clearly we were supposed to talk today. Like, today was the day.
Oh, when the trickster comes a knocking. All right. Yeah. So we just took a little break, I guess, to rock out to some Gogol Bordello.
Absolutely. Since that
Yeah.
that song jumped out, it poked. poked
Yeah. Um, ew. What the hell?
Mm.
I'm just looking at the lyrics of that song. A lot of it's in Ukrainian, but there's something in
Oh,
there about transvestitatin.
oh no.
Yeah. Anyway, still gonna recommend Gogol Bordello because I don't know Ukrainian,
There you
but
go. Perfect.
oh yeah. I mean, like there's just like so much like that needs to be done on like that front too. Like,
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah. I won't even like get into like my pet peeves lately and stuff, but
Hmm.
yeah, I do get a little bit of a kick like in like the doctor's office and like, the nurse comes in to like check my blood pressure and then they're like, "Oh, it's so fucking weird." Like they
Mm.
step back out and like to ask the doctor if they're in the right room. And I'm just like, "Oh my fucking God," right?
Oh my God. Like, couldn't, again, maybe just ask what your name is. You know what I mean? Like if they,
Yeah.
again, they're a way to, oh God.
Or read my chart and
Or read your chart.
diagnosis.
Yes,
Like I've got the
exactly.
printouts like on my iPad and I can see like all of the diagnosis codes in big bold letters that should tell you like you're straight up in the right room.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh man, that's and ugh, I get so mad. I-
Well, and then
right.
it's like it goes and that circles like right the fuck back to like what we were talking about, like compassion versus the sword, right?
Yes. Right. Right.
Because, like not that I'm not
Hmm.
ignorant now on so much, but like,
Yeah.
20, 25 years ago when I was like more ignorant on stuff, like despite the best intentions, like, you'd say something like incorrectly and you get met with the sword and then that like
Hmm.
throws your ass like, you're pulling out your sword too,
Yes. Exact.
right?
Yes. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and that's
Yeah.
not to like cast blame on others who pull out the sword, but like just like to give my own self like pause to think of like how often am I pulling out the sword?
Of course. Right. I know. And again, that goes back to what we were talking about earlier in terms of energy expenditure. What is the real battle here? Because it can be so frustrating when people are just careless, right?
Right.
And careless and lacking empathy. Because again, going back to this idea of compassion, if you know how to, if you, and compassion, and I would also say being open. I can't imagine what it's like being a nurse right now in any kind of medical setting, right?
Yeah. Oh my
I,
God, that's another thing. Like everybody like in that office, like I had to go to like three different offices for various appointments. And like everybody had a horror story about like either how overrun they are or like the lab tech who took my blood for like just to like check levels, like was
Mhm.
telling me about their daughter being sick after working like 100 hours a week as like a nurse at a local hospital.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So
Yeah.
it's again, I constantly struggle with this because this is something that I'm always trying to work with and work through. Um, Having compassion for others, but not at the sacrifice of myself, right? And my own boundaries.
Right.
Because again, I was raised to constantly sacrifice my emotional health, my mental well-being for other people. I was trained that that's what I
Same.
was supposed to do.
Yeah.
And also having an awareness and an understanding that other people are going through things and are stressed out, and like don't go into something assuming that something is an intentional slight. It can
Right.
feel like one, and it's shitty, right? It's
Yeah.
like that's shitty to leave the room and be like, am I in the right room? Like, fuck you, read the chart. That's your goddamn
Yeah.
job, you know? Um, but it's like as that's as it's a thoughtless move. It seems like anyway, rather than an intentionally aggressive move. And
Right. Yeah.
also and also understanding that people have inherent transphobia. And so there might be these things that are coming out that are not intentional, but a part of programming and part of things that they haven't investigated. And they also need to do that fucking work and figure out where their biases are, right?
Yeah.
Again, I have about a billion thoughts about all of this. But learning how to not, again, reactive mind versus wise mind. If you can try to have a wise mind about this, because it's not worth the emotional expenditure. There are bigger battles to fight all over the place. Again, it's up to you too, to say to somebody, oh, that was hurtful to me. I don't know if you like that, like me trying to get to the point where I can like fight those battles, but fight it in like the coolest, calmest way possible, of just declaring what my feelings are to somebody and that their behavior hurt me in a particular way. But again, the most even keel, because that's gonna stick in somebody's head more than you snapping at somebody, unfortunately, right? Unfortunately. Yeah.
Well, yeah, and like, I think to me that's just a case like going back to like breath work and awareness as a prophylactic and not an emergency treatment.
Totally. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I could say we could go on and on about that, but I think there's like a rich history of like religious, spiritual, and occult literature that's already done the job. And now it's just a matter of like us to like find it and practice it and like recognize where the weak spots are and do better.
Absolutely. Yes. Yes. Finding a grounding, finding a centering, finding your breath. That's part of so many different ritual and magical practices. And okay, clearly there's something there, right? There's something physical that is affecting mental states. So maybe again, take care of the meat sack. 9 out of
10,
right?
like ultra terrestrials can't be wrong, right?
Exactly. Right.
Oh, Vanessa, this was wonderful and I appreciate it. And if I can plug something, I was recently a fly on the wall for our friend AP Strange and Alan Greenfield to talk about contactees. Alan's new book, The Grail Within, The True Quest for the Holy Grail in the Western Sex Magic Tradition, and Dunk on Neo-Nazis. We're going to be releasing that on the Eternal Void with Jazz probably this weekend.
Yay, amazing. I'm excited. I'm going to listen to that.
Heck yeah. No, it's like 2.5 hours long and we're editing nothing. It's a fun talk, as Alan always is.
Of course. Yes, exactly. That's going to be perfect.
All right. Well, hey, y'all have a wonderful day and I love you and I'll talk to y'all soon.
Sounds good. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for listening and or watching. Everything that Chelle mentioned is in the show notes because she is a professional podcaster and so gave me links for absolutely every book and person that she spoke of fondly. You can find those in the show notes, both on Anchor and on YouTube. You can follow Chelle at void_jazz or Rebirth of Core. You can find Personal Pans at Personal Pans on Twitter and on Instagram, and you can get a hold of me at Kali Butterfly, that's Kali Butterfly on Twitter. Thank you again so much for listening, and I hope you have a playful and curious day.